Hello everyone. I know it's been a while since I've posted, but I needed to take a break because of my very powerful ayahuasca experience. I needed an entire week to process and integrate all of that I learned because, quite frankly, I went through heaven and hell all in one night, all within the span of probably like 7 or 8 hours. But I want to talk about what I learned on ayahuasca. This is my second ceremony. The first one I didn't prepare for at all, so I wouldn't really count that because it was more of a physical purging than me having to do like internal work. This one was by far a lot more powerful in terms of the visuals, what I saw, what ayahuasca was showing me, was teaching me, and I'm just gonna go through quickly what I went through. I'm laughing because it's a lot, and yeah, so we're in Maine at this house, and there's probably 20-25 people. One by one we go up and drink the aya and go back to our seat. I'm laying down. There's a tree above me, tree branches, and I'm just kind of staring at it throughout the night, just breathing and trying to stay as present as possible and just go into it with the mindset of I'm gonna have no expectations. I'm just gonna let Aya show me what I need to be shown, allow me to feel what I need to feel. And I just trusted her, and I let go. And maybe 20-30 minutes after I drank it, the effects started kicking in, and the first thing that happens, for me at least, is the classic. Everything is very detailed, very complex, geometric shapes and fractals that are constantly shifting and moving. And so when I look up at the sky, at the branches and leaves, they're all like one shape. It's kind of hard to describe, but when you look at each leaf, it was like a certain shape. It's like a pointed, like all the trees, the branches were made up of that fractal. And then I start losing myself, my sense of self, and this was the part where I panicked a little bit, because your ego, your identity starts to dissolve. And I remember like shaking a lot, and I thought I was like hyperventilating or getting hypothermia because it was pretty cold out too. But it was just Aya working through my body. And I raised my hand a couple times because I was kind of freaking out and I needed someone to ground me. There were like 4 or 5 helpers there, which was amazing. They came and calmed me down. And at this point, like, all of my movements, like when I would, like, I don't know, move my hand over in that way, it would be delayed. So I would move my hand, and then I would feel my hand move maybe seconds later, if that makes sense. Everything felt like, in slow motion when I was moving back and forth. I just felt myself kind of like I could see all the frames that made up that movement. But anyway, so yeah, you start to dissolve your sense of self, and it's a very scary feeling. After a while, I was just like, okay, I'm just gonna breeze through this. I'm gonna be okay. And I started just telling myself, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. So I'm trying to recollect the memories right now. But basically, I was just surrendering like this, and all of these images of pain, of trauma, of famine, of war, imagine just like the collective trauma and pain and anger and anguish all encapsulated in these images that would just flash across my mind. And it was constant. Like, it got to a certain point where all of these like really disturbing images of, sorry, this is gonna be a little graphic, but I'm just gonna say it, like mutilated bodies of children, blood, of gore, famine, war, starvation, like you name it, like all of the pain and torture that and trauma that goes on in this world, I just saw, and it would just flash in my mind, and it didn't stop. And whenever it got to a point where it was too much for my consciousness would just go blank. I would just it would just be black. And then once I regained consciousness, it would go back into that cycle. So how I described to my friends was like, I felt like I was going through a never-ending cycles, lifetimes of pain and trauma, of just the collective of thousands of years in the past, of my ancestors, of the human beings, what humans have been going through for so freaking long. And then they get stuck in this karmic cycle of pain and suffering, and it was just that, and it was just almost unbearable for, I don't even know, I would say maybe an hour or two, even though time is like out the window at that point. But it was very difficult for me, obviously, when you're confronted with all that. But I would remind myself all throughout that just to breathe and come back to, you know, my body, and remind myself that I'm still here, I'm still alive, even though there are moments where I was dying. I thought I was dying, but it, you know, it's an ego death. I would say that that was the hell part. And then gradually I come out of that. I start breathing and being present and telling myself it's okay. And then, you know, my own trauma and pain would come up. And a lot of my pain and trauma comes from my family. And I've always known this, but every time I take a plant medicine or a psychedelic, it comes up again. The fact that I didn't have the best relationship with my parents, with my family. I wasn't very close, and I wish I was closer to them, but there is this language barrier. There's also this, you know, I have a very, very different idea of reality, what it means to be alive, of, you know, I had a 9-to-5 job and I quit it, and my parents were like disappointed in me. But, you know, they have a very conventional idea of, you know, lifestyle of existing, whereas I feel like a freaking alien. I've always felt like an alien. So I think that's part of the reason why I'm attracted to these mind expanding, mind altering medicines and psychedelics and whatnot. But at a certain point, I was laying like bundled up in blankets, and I was crying. There was tears coming down, and Aya was just showing me that I need to sit down with my family. I need to express how I feel to my parents. To be honest, I haven't done that yet because there's still a blockage in me. And it is the fear. It's the fear of expressing myself, especially towards my family for some freaking reason. But, you know, I won't get into the personal pains and traumas too much, but that was like a huge theme that night, where I need to express how I feel, and I've been running away from it. Everything I do, like, I would get flashbacks of like my everyday life and what I would do throughout the day. And every step I took throughout the day, everything I did was me running away, which is crazy because I'm not conscious of that in my day-to-day life. But Aya showed me that, like, me like overeating, me scrolling on Instagram, me, that's all the result of me escaping my trauma and my fear, which stems from the fear of expressing myself and my emotions, my feelings to my family, because I love them so much. But I guess in my culture, it's not like expressing how you feel isn't, it's like taboo to express how you feel. And it's the hardest thing for some reason. me and my friend were joking about how we'd rather jump out of an airplane than tell our parents how we feel, and we literally did that. We went skydiving like a month ago, and that was easier for us to do than sitting down with my parents. And I guess the fear stems from not being understood, being judged, being not accepted, because I never felt like I was good enough growing up. Everything I did wasn't good enough. I didn't get good enough grades. I'd show like pieces of art to my parents, something I was proud of, and they rarely complimented me or said like good job or anything like that. It was just like they would point out what was wrong with it, and I didn't realize how much that actually affected me and my I guess how I go about life nowadays. And ever since then, it like it sticks with you, that feeling of not being good enough. And a lot of it came from my parents, and you know, I'm still working through that, and I'm still working through not being so self-conscious of being who I am. And that's another huge lesson that Aya shows you, is that you are perfect the way you are, and we hold back so much of who we are, of our beauty, of our gifts every day, because we feel like we're not good enough. And that was a huge thing. And even though I feel a lot more free to express myself, and I'm a lot more confident than I was 1, 2, 3 years ago, I still have a lot to work on, and this YouTube channel is really helping me express part of me that I kind of hold back. So yeah, the collective trauma, and then the personal trauma, and then eventually you get to, well, I got to the absolute bliss and freedom. I felt like I transcended all of that pain and all that trauma and went into the next dimension, 5D or something. I all of a sudden was flooded with images of connection, of community, of dancing around a fire, of cooking beautiful food and nourishing food, sharing, abundance, absolute peace. Like the world just reached a point of absolute peace, and there is no turning back. And the feeling is indescribable. It's just like you're liberated. Like, imagine going through lifetime after lifetime of suffering, and then stepping into a new world of absolute freedom. It's like the complete opposite contrasts that I went through in one night. And then at the end, oh my god, the music also the woman who was leading it was playing music all throughout the night, and the music was so divinely synced with every emotion I was going through, everything I was going through throughout the night. So it kind of started off like rhythmic and like, jungle-like, shamanic, almost kind of scary. There were some moments where I was like, why is she playing this music? But I think now I understand it was meant to trigger the emotions, the trauma within you, like the kind of darker music, and then throughout the night it gets more uplifting and more empowering. And at the end, I'll never forget this one song, these couple songs that like they're so beautiful. And I remember thinking like, well, I was just looking up at the tree again. I was coming back to my body, coming back into who I was. I was just so thankful, and I kept saying like, I love you, thank you, I love you, thank you. And you feel this like absolute peace and embrace of Aya, of the universe, of God, of the world. Like everything is in perfect harmony. Everything is so beautiful, and it's so hard to describe that in words, but it's just that feeling. I feel like people rarely get to experience. It's just, it's bliss. And oh boy. So yeah, so this song came on at the end. It felt like end credits to an epic movie. Like, imagine watching this movie, imagine your favorite movie. That was so epic and so inspiring and life-changing and motivating. And then at the end, the credits coming up. Like, that feeling, imagine that feeling of like, holy shit. You're like speechless and you're just in the movie theater reflecting on what you just saw. Like, that was the feeling I got. It was just like a cherry on top for the entire experience. And there are no words for it, man. You just and I realized that all of our lives are just movies. We're creating our story. We're telling our story and creating it and living it. Like, we forget who we are when we come into this plane of existence. But we are immortal souls, spirits, extensions of God and the universe, whatever you want to call it. And we chose to come down here on Earth to experience contrast. And contrast meaning polarity, light and dark, day and night, love and fear. So in a way, we're on the very edge of existence. We're like pioneers of existence, of consciousness, because the extremes that we go through here on Earth, there is literal heaven and hell on this Earth. And through contrast, sifting through the good and bad, light and dark, we become more and more conscious, because you don't know what love feels like without feeling pain. You don't know what pain feels like without feeling love. You can't really appreciate the sun coming out without, having the moon come out every night as well. So light and dark, just extremes. And as we sift through the polarities, we gain so much wisdom and so much experience. And this is what we came down here for. At least this is what I came down here for. To experience fear, to experience being cut, detached from God, detached from source and who I truly am, to rediscover who I am, which is just one swaying leaf that is part of the universe, that is the whole of this massive tree that is filled with these leaves. And it's just it was epic and insane and no words for it. But I'd say the biggest takeaways: be yourself, be who you are. We restrict ourselves so much every day because we're afraid to be judged, we're afraid to be called weird or different. Or differences, our uniqueness, our imperfections are what make us so beautiful, so powerful. Every little thing you came down here with was a gift. You have gifts, and they're meant to be shared with this world. Another thing, heal. I came down here to heal myself, and in turn heal the world, help heal the world, help heal everyone else around me by healing myself and my traumas, confronting my fears and my pains, my sorrows, confronting all of those emotions that we suppress. We have to feel in order to heal, and that's what ayahuasca forces you to do. It forces you to feel everything you're afraid of feeling. So there's no escaping it. Which can be a traumatic thing. Definitely was terrifying. But you have to go through it. And I don't know if I added this, but it did feel like the universe was using my body to also process the trauma, the collective trauma of the world, of other human beings, collective beings around me. So I feel like I was not only helping myself heal and purge my trauma, but the world's. And it was through me that like they used my body to do that. And I feel like in a way they chose me because they knew that I could handle it. Like I wouldn't be permanently traumatized my entire life. So that felt really empowering, and I'm glad that I did my part in that way. And I also felt that my guides, my spirit guides, whatever, these energies were protecting me the entire time. Were looking down on me and holding me and being like she's okay, like it's okay, you're okay. Also, another thing I forgot to mention was the uncontrollable shaking I did all night. There was one point where my hips were shaking up and down, like frantically, and my ego was like, what am I doing? Like, am I looking like weird right now? And then Aya talked through me, and I just said to myself, it's okay, just let your body do its thing. And I realized at that point, I was like, oh, okay, my body's just shaking so that it can process the emotions. It could shake out the emotions, you know, like when animals prey, when prey get like chased down and stuff, like say a deer or something, and they escape their predator, what they do is they shake their trauma out. It's like, whew, that was scary, but like their bodies automatically shake the trauma out. As humans, we don't do that enough. We're freaking robotic. We go at our 9-to-5 jobs and we sit and we stare at a computer, and we're not like, we've lost touch with that primal, instinctual, natural nature. And it's all by design. It's these powers that be that have created this plane of existence that we live on in order to lose ourselves, lose our connection with God and source. But I'm not saying that I don't want to say they're bad or evil. It's like we chose to come down here to experience that. But anyway, before I digress, consciousness creates reality. That was so clear to me that night, that we are literally creating our lives by our thoughts, emotions, and feelings. And I knew that on an intellectual level. And like, I know that too. Like, I know that my thoughts are creating my life. The opportunities that come up, the people that show up in my life is all a result of my attitude, my thoughts, my emotions, my beliefs, my belief in that everything is unfolding as it should, my belief in that I deserve abundance, I deserve freedom, and as a result, I'm living that. Another thing that was funny was like Trump. I was like thinking about Donald Trump, and what came to me, I don't ultimately know if this is true or false, but in my heart, in my deeper knowing and intuition, what came to me was that Trump is of the light. Trump is working towards our liberation, and he is being damned and hated, and he has all this shit that's thrown against him by the media shaping our perception of him, because he is a very threat to their existence. And I'll get into that. That's a whole other freaking thing. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt so much love for Donald Trump that night. And then I also thought about Bill Gates and how he felt like the opposite. You know, he's trying to roll out this new world order. And I realized that, like, he just needs love. All the enemies, so-called evil that exists in the world, what they ultimately need is our love, our compassion. Not to say that we should, like, accept everything that they do and just be okay with it. No, we have to have our own boundaries. But these people that are hurting inside, that are being greedy, that are raping Mother Earth of her resources in order to gain profits, it's because they feel such lack within themselves to a point that they feel like they have to, project their pain and anger and greed onto humanity. Like, that greed stems from this deep-seated feeling of lack, and they need healing just as much as we do. So I guess that stemmed from the teaching of we are all one. We're all one. We are all reflections of each other. We all come from the same source. And all this fighting and bickering and division that's happening right now, there is literally no point. You're going to get nowhere if you keep fighting against what you hate or what you disagree with. No point. You're fighting against yourself when you do that. Heal, help people heal. We're all one. We're all in this together. There's so much beauty and peace and harmony to be harvested in the future. And I feel like in the next 5-10 years, things are going to look so different. But I don't want this video to go for too long, so I'm going to end it right here. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching, and have a beautiful day.